Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Neptune Sunday. It's your boy V Moss and my partner Vogue here. What's good?
What's up, Vaughn? How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm an adult. It's all
Yeah,
right to do
yeah.
that.
It's good to see you. So we haven't spoken on camera since maybe what, like probably I think piece by piece episode.
Yeah. It's been a while.
Did you see the movie yet? No, I know you haven't seen it.
Don't ask me that on the air.
Man, I know you got a lot going on, so I'm not holding it against you. You know, life is crazy
I
for
will see it for everybody listening. I will see it.
life is crazy for everyone. So keeping with the current events in the Pharrell, Neptunes, Chad universe. First thing, GQ Man of the Year. It's December, so it's the end of the year. GQ Man of the Year magazine um is out. Pharrell was chosen as designer of the year. Here, I have it. I haven't read it yet. Here's the cover here. All right.
Very dope.
And with the bag, like the bag is I get like we've talked about this on here before. Like I'm not a super fashion guy. I don't know if
Yeah.
I can ever do the bag. Everything else here, I probably can make it happen. But the bag, I don't know. But of course they had an event to celebrate the end of the year issue of GQ Man. Shout out to Fraser Tharp. They had a cowboy theme, which I think Pharrell had a lot to do with. But also featured in the magazine and celebrate at the event. Homeboy Shabuzi from Virginia, who's had a crazy year. Cat Williams, The Rock, John Mulaney, and then John David and Malcolm Washington. So looking forward to reading that article, the interview with Pharrell. I know there was a piece that came out. People talked about how he got asked a question where they asked him a question about the Drake line about melting down his jewelry and what his response
Oh
to
my
it
God.
was. And his response was, I had no response, which is like, that's it, done. It's dead.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah. Very P.
The next current event thing I want to talk about, sure you're excited. We have not had conversations about the
Don't
Tyler
even say
album.
it. Oh my God. I'm living the dream.
Talk to us about how much you love the Tyler album, Vogue.
I'm obsessed. I have the vinyl. I think it's so good. I am so proud of him because it's so personal. Um, and I think like musically, it's a really dope exploration. Like you can always hear the influence from like the Neptunes in his music, but like to have been listening to him since like his very first album and to hear how he's grown musically, lyrically, in terms of sounds and harmonies and all that. Conceptually, he has really great concepts. I'm really satisfied as a fan all around.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the Pharrell Neptunes references or influences in the album on social media on our Neptune Sunday podcast accounts. He mentions P in a couple songs. Peace that I
I
can do
re-
too, and then and boy did I believe him. He
I
says
love that.
shout out to Papa, he for real. He says I
Uh-huh.
thought I was dead. What did he say? Oh, where I'm at, there's no service on my two-way, so you don't have to call him Usher Raymond on a Tuesday. Just a lot of, this the sonic references when we talk about the mouth clicks from Never Like It's Hot that's on Darling and a couple other songs. And then, it's got this someone else, one of our followers pointed out the like warbly muted horn sound is out throughout the
Yes.
album that's similar to some of that songs that's I think the Neptunes will use it a lot throughout their career, but I know there's specifically a lot of those that instrument on the Nothing album. But yeah, I again have talked about how much of a Tyler fan I've grown to be. Funny enough, I know the whole Spotify thing is a hot topic right now. I do not use Spotify enough to have a Spotify Wrapped. I have an Apple Music end of the year replay. My
Hmm.
top five artists are, this is very interesting. One is Kaytranada. Kaytranada, Tyler, Kendrick, Jay-Z, and who's the fifth one? Kitchener, Tyler, Kendrick, Jay-Z. There's someone else. Oh, Schoolboy Q.
Are you turning into me? What's happening? Schoolboy Q. Actually, Tyler did not make my top. I ran the Schoolboy Q album to the ground. I will just put that there. But Schoolboy Q, K Tronada were also on my top five for
Those
Spotify.
my top two songs were Blue Slides and Thank God for Me.
Thank God for Me was my number one. They said I played it like 143 times.
God,
Wildin'.
God.
Between that and Thought I Was Dead, those are my like get you hype songs.
Speaking of, let's keep with the West conversation. Kendrick dropped G and X last
Well,
week. So obviously we're excited about the fact that the Heart Park 6 uses samples and interpolation of SWV's Use Your Heart, produced by
yep,
Pharrell and Chad early in the days and back in the 90s, which was very well done. I love how they took like a really great R&B song and turned it into a tribute to his boys. I thought that was dope.
it was so
Um,
good.
do you have any thoughts about the album before I give some perspective? I got a little bit of a rant to go on. It's not a rant.
I don't have anything special to say. I think anybody who follows me on social knows I love it. So please be free.
So I said this on Twitter and social media from the podcast account. The group chat with my best friends,
Mm-hmm.
who I talk to every single day, who I grew up with for the most part, or have known them for at least a long time, is divided because of this album. I changed the name of the group chat to Mustard because it's like Captain America Civil War in that joint, yo. Like it's like, and I think part of it is I mean I can only speak to my perspective of it, right? Like I think there's some of the people who are on the other side either only kind of like Kendrick or don't like Kendrick at all. And part of it is, you know, and I'm just gonna say names like Gramps, the oldest one, like my older god brother. Like he's 6 years older than us, but he like grew up on East Coast rap. Like so when he was growing up on Biggie and them, he did not like Tupac. So this is like in that same vein for him, which is why I think that's why he doesn't like it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else is just kind of like I guess they're just lukewarm to it. But I feel like my feeling so strongly for it, and the reason why like they're giving me a hard time about being so excited about it is because like in my formative years in high school, Cali music was a big deal. That was when Dre was came back strong and Snoop came back strong. Like, and I loved that stuff. Like, I
Yeah.
loved all that music. But then after that period of like high school, I went to Hampton and like I met people and I hung out with people who were from California. Like I
Yeah.
spent time with people from Long Beach and from Compton and from Inglewood, right? Like, and from the Bay. So like
Yeah.
I'm listening to like and I'm also like DJing these house parties where I got to be able to play that. So like I got to be able to run, tell me when to go. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like I got to
Yeah.
be able to like drop these songs and like appreciate them and have like a good appreciation for it. And Cali is Active by Dog Pound is one of my favorite albums that came out during that time. Like
Yeah.
so I have a different appreciation for it where I'm like, I know I'm not from it and I appreciate it. I know it's like different, but also like at the same time, I just have always been a fan of Kendrick. And I feel like I've been a bigger fan of Kendrick than those guys in the group chat, and that makes sense. But I just
I
wanted to
don't
say how interesting it was of how I mean it was it was intense the first day. It was intense.
Well, first of all, I want to say I'm glad you reminded me that those were your friends because I almost called them names. You didn't like it. So I'm so sorry about the things I thought about you very briefly. But I actually kind of feel like you. I'm a very much, I love the West Coast sound. I'm like from DC, but love West Coast. Kendrick is my number one. Tyler's my number two. They're both from Cali. So like that is kind of like where I lean musically. And so like this was like piece de resistance for me. I was so happy. I think when you give me the perspective on like someone being like very deeply based in like East Coast hip hop, I can understand why maybe it didn't resonate with you. But I think culturally, it also was like so important for me. I feel like Kendrick has done a really good job at kind of setting us up to understand his appreciation of rap and his appreciation of history and all of that. And so I feel like he celebrated that really well with this album.
Yeah, I mean, it just the funny thing that I think really hammered it home in my appreciation of the album and Kendrick as an artist. Two things. I saw someone tweet or say something on maybe Threads. Like I'm on social media too much and I get confused about where I see things. They're basically making the point of like all the people that want bops, like Mr. Morale had bops. Like it had good, like high energy, like hip hop songs. It also had some like really, really intense, like introspective songs that like were for him that weren't
Mm.
really for us. And if you appreciate the art, you did, and if you didn't, he didn't care. So
Yep.
like you can't be mad. Like you got the bops, and then you didn't. Now you want to say the album is trash, but you just ignoring. You forgot about the bops, and then like the second thing, Thanksgiving, um I was with my Uncle Chuck, who you know, and my cousin and her husband. So Uncle Chuck is in his early 60s, and then my cousin and her husband are in their early 50s. And then there's me and Kia. All of us are in the car on the way to the airport to drop me and Kia off. And somehow it came up like my cousin's husband brought up the whole like Kendrick and Drake beef. And I was like, I don't understand. Like, I think Drake got some good songs. And it hit me because I was like, I never thought I would be in a position to have to explain this the way I did. And I was like, well, like I like Drake music too, but the reality is the point of this whole beef is that Kendrick is tired of Drake pretending to be from the culture when he isn't, and Kendrick is of the culture, and the culture made him who he is, and he's just calling him out on it.
Yep.
And I'm like, Drake is an actor from Canada. He's like,
Yep.
he's he's half Jewish and he's half black, but like the culture that is in that music that he's making is really, it's inspired by, and that's okay. Like it's okay. But Kendrick's, I'm born and raised in Compton, California. Like this is the shit that I lived. Like so
And it's something to be said for like I've always said like Drake is one of the best hit makers of all time.
it's
Fuck authenticity, but like rap is about the very foundation of rap is about authenticity and only having your balls in your word. And I think that Kendrick embodies that in a way that Drake could never. And if you care about that as a rap fan, that matters to you.
right.
And Kendrick has tapped into the people who care about that.
If you care about it as a rap fan, then you like care about what the cultural undertones and like implications the conversation has when you're talking about these two guys and how different they are. And it's not even a black white thing. It's like it's a culture
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And hip hop culture is comes from something that like is very important to black culture. So then it becomes a, more of a black white thing. But it ain't really about that. Like, because there's plenty of people who are not from the culture who contribute to it on a daily basis, and there are a lot of people who don't, and it's clear the difference. And so like, it is what it is. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, when it comes down to the music, I think I'm just at a point. I'm just speaking personally now. Like I'm at a point where the music that Kendrick is making has more of an impact on my life. Like it means more, and I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like we're adults.
yeah,
Like we're real adults now. And I think that Kendrick is talking about stuff that we are thinking, experiencing, our friends are experiencing, our friends are raising kids, we're thinking about kids, like our families, our histories, like all of that matters to Kendrick and he expresses that through his music. And
right.
I think the interesting thing about Drake, which I've if you would have talked to me 5 years ago, I would have Draked you down. But I think the thing about Drake's music that we, all of us have talked about who are music fans is that like it has stagnated in terms of like his age is the same as it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And like that doesn't work for people like us anymore.
Yeah. I wish I could remember who said it, but there was some athlete who was being interviewed and something about him going to therapy, and he's like, "Yeah, I listened to Kendrick's album, and he had that um he's got those interludes from the actual like therapist person. I
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
think
yeah.
but the athlete said I looked up who that was, and then I went and read his book, and it's helped me like
Oh, why
be
can't I
more
think of the name?
mindful. I gotta look it up.
Right, I'm googling.
Oh, therapist Eggert Toll.
Thank you. I was hoping so bad it would come to my mind.
Um, and not that I completely agree with it, but I did also see a tweet today or maybe yesterday, whatever, that said Drake is still rapping for people who are 45 going on 15.
How can you not agree? And
Yeah.
I mean, look, there are people out there who feel that way. And if that's your jam, have
That's the
at it.
jam.
I'm not
Do
taking it away
you?
from you.
Do
It's just
you?
not where I am.
Do you? Do you? Okay. Enough about those guys.
Wow. Wow.
This is
We can
this
talk about all kinds of music.
is what happens. This is what happens. This is what happens. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is why we're actually here. Today, we are going to celebrate 25 years since
To
Kelis
the day.
dropped Kaleidoscope, which is her first album. So let's just get into a little bit of background on Kelis for those of you guys who don't know. Um, Kelis is from Harlem. She went to LaGuardia High School for the Performing Arts. Famous alums that went there. Vogue, you ready? It's a crazy list. Jennifer Aniston, Zazie Beetz, Timothy Chalamet. Remember that video of him like doing the talent show where he's
Oh
doing
my best video of all time.
crazy, crazy. Okay. Omar Epps, Al Pacino, Marlon Wayans, Billy D. Williams, Ving Rhames, Nicki Minaj, Eartha Kitt,
Yep.
Azalea Banks. So
That's
pretty,
insane.
pretty good list.
Yeah.
Good list. She was 20 when the album came out. Um, just a little bit of history, just reception for the album. Like I feel like just reading a little bit about it and thinking about it and sitting with it this week. Couple thoughts. It was the perfect time to like the Neptunes just hit this lightning in a bottle, chain of the century from 99 2000. Like this was a futuristic sound. So people like really were like, this music is from the future and we're gonna listen to this because it's the year 2000. This is a big deal. So this album had a huge part of that, especially given a fresh and new take on R&B of the time. Like this was very different from that. The Neptunes definitely use this album throughout, in their writing and their production to still hammer home their space theme. Um, some of the reading said that just like In Search of, which the first album that only got released in overseas, like this album did okay in the US, but it had much bigger reception overseas, which I think makes a lot of sense to what we know about the Neptune sounds of like how
Yeah.
it wasn't really embraced over here until the Neptunes went on that crazy hip hop and R&B run, but like them in their own, alternative R&B, alternative whatever music bag wasn't the same. At like the nerd Kelis alternative was different than Neptunes. Um, and so I think we can have this conversation now about technically the reason why we're talking about this obviously is because of the anniversary, but this is also R&B season. There's
Yes.
a conversation to be had about what like does Kelis's music, especially these first two albums, does it quantify as R&B? What do you think?
What do I think? Yes. Firmly. And I say that with the full knowledge of something I was going to talk about. So I'll talk about it now. Is my big secret is I did not listen to this whole album until later on in life. And by later on in life, I mean this week. I'm a huge if you've heard anything of this podcast, you know I'm a huge Kelis fan. But I think I fell in love with her singles and who she is as a person. So it didn't involve. I didn't listen to albums in the way that I do now. Now that I'm like really into music, and I think it was just like I got to know her in a more organic way, at least organic for the way that we digested music back then. But listening to the album, I was impressed by like the range that it has, and I think it has the kind of range that like touches on all the different kinds of R&B. You have the jazz influences, you have the pop influences, you have a couple rock influences, which are also a part of the story of R&B and Black music. So like sitting back and looking at it as a full body of work, I was like, no, this is R&B.
Yeah, I would agree. I think like I think I read something that said like the vibes of the album is kind of like a maturity level at the time of like Brandy in between Brandy and Mary J. Blige, what I thought was a
Yeah,
good description. And the songs that are R&B, like you feel them. And as we go through some of the songs, like and talk about them and like directly, we'll give more insight into that. But the reason why I wanted to bring that question up is because in 2014, Police told Guardian I was never an R&B artist. People coined me one, but that's because especially if you're in the States, if you're black and you sing, then you're R&B.
yeah,
And I think that I see her point, but at the same time, like that album and that album, where it was and what type of music it was in 1999 and where these guys were coming from, like doing SWV and doing total stuff and like having that experience and coming to like there was no way to escape it. Like just I think maybe in 2014 she's talking about her whole career, but I feel
yeah.
like in 1999 she definitely knew she was like being an R&B artist. Like, but at the same time, venturing out to be different and being alternative and doing something that sounded like not traditional R&B, which was fine.
Yeah, I think that like the definition of what R&B is has grown a lot over the years. Whereas back in 99 it meant one specific thing and she wasn't that.
Right.
And maybe even in 2014 when she's making a statement, it still was a little bit closer to that original thing. Um but I think now, especially somebody who listens to a lot of alternative R&B, I think the definition is so much broader that like now I can look at it and be like, oh no, this is R&B.
Right.
Whereas me from 15 years ago may have said something different.
Yeah. I also wanted to talk about, like she was the first lady, right? Like she was very important
No, you
to
just read my mind.
the foundation of what we know, what we came to know the Neptunes Star Trak movement to be. That album was important to launching the Star Trak brand, especially when we talk about the fact that, technically this is the end of 99. So the Clips album was supposed to come out before that
Yeah.
got shelved. So like that was supposed to be the jumping off and it wasn't. So then we get this Kelis album, which is like very unique, very in your face. The two singles were crazy. But at the same time, on top of that, her voice was very much sprinkled into some of the other major hits that helped launch the Neptunes career. When we talk about ODB Got Your Money, talk about Busta, What It Is Right Now, Foxy Brown, Candy, and even Truth or Dare on the Nerd album. So cannot talk about like cannot discredit or cannot like discount the fact that Kelis and this album specifically and her presence in those early days in the 99, like 1999, 2000 is like very important to helping to lay the foundation for what we knew the Star Trek like Neptune's found like brand to be, which I think is
I'm,
important.
I'm going to take it a step further, not only to like what we understand the brand to be. Like I was thinking about this as I was listening to the album and kind of comparing Kelis to the other kind of first ladies that we know. Like Aaliyah was the first lady of what's Timbaland's company?
I don't know if it really had a name back then.
Well, she was the first lady of that group.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think if you go back and listen to Aaliyah albums, you notice that like when you have someone who's kind of fixed in your company or in your group in that way, you have the opportunity to take a lot of different chances with them and to kind of like play with the sound because that you have such an intimate relationship musically that you can be like, okay, try this on. Try this on. I know your voice so well, you know my music so well. And I can hear like the foundational sounds of like what we know the Neptunes as, like you're saying.
Right.
And I thought it was a really good opportunity for them to kind of stretch themselves by making the album so like varied in sounds. And a lot of the, it's funny, we were talking about the Tyler album and talking about how he's using those muted horns, but like I'm listening to Kelis album, I'm like, that's something they've used for like the 20 years following
Right.
making this album, but they set the foundation here.
Yep.
So it was like it was almost like listening to a practice run of who they were going to become.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I don't really have any personal thoughts or memories of. I also will admit that I've never listened to it all the way through until recently as well. But I have heard all the songs just like first from listening to the Neptunes playlist on shuffle. But I never had sat with it, and it's like it is a cohesive like project. Like it makes sense. Like if you are a fan of the Neptunes, you're a fan of Pharrell and the work that they've done. Um, you should listen to it and you'll appreciate it just because of again like it's a foundation. It's a historical like piece of work, which is why we're talking about it like 25 years ago. Like and we'll get into it like in a second when we talk about the song. But like again, it's setting the foundation for all those things like Nerds featured on it, Push is featured on it, like Pharrell's rapping on there. Like it has the elements that would spring out and become their own things,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's all there. So let's just go song by song. Like we don't have to really do too much on it. Just give some thoughts if you have them. The intro was cool. This concept of like Kelis being some alien, I thought that was again important to the space concept. Um, Second song is Good Stuff featuring
Yeah.
Terror, aka Pusha T. I think Good Stuff is a good song.
It's a
Uh,
good song.
so then following up is the singles, Caught Out There and Get Along With You.
I don't have to tell the stories about these again. Y'all have heard my like wide eye looking at the screen stories about like experiencing these for the first time as like a weird black girl. Like these songs made me who I am.
Caught Out There is that's the one that made people pay attention. But
Yeah.
I think Get Along With You is the one where people were like, okay, I see what they're doing. Like
Mm-hmm.
just the way that the staccato, like whatever it is, violin or something like that, classical music in the beginning, and then the crazy heavy Neptune's drum drop after like that. I think that was a song that was like, okay, cool. We're taking this R&B that you guys know and we're doing our own thing. This is what like here. Understand. Like that's a perfect example of like kind of showing exactly how they were going to take it and do whatever they wanted to do with it and do something different.
Yeah, for sure.
Mafia I thought was cool.
I
Uh,
wanted to talk about that for a second because like we're in then I'm gonna give you a warning that you may have to bleep this. We're in like the golden age of pussy rap where we have like all these we have all these female rappers who are like really prominent and like it's so much more commonplace right now
Yep.
to be in 1999 a 20-year-old woman with a female rapper as a feature. I don't know Marquita. I don't know that her career went anywhere after this, but like I thought that was really important for just like who Kelis is. I think Kelis, like, even in listening to his music, like she always comes off as really true to herself. And
Yep.
I felt like this was another piece of that. And I thought I remember like memorizing Lil Kim verses and not understanding that's what I was doing, but it's because I heard a woman's voice like me rapping.
Yep.
And I feel like this probably evoked the same kind of feelings in other like young people, young girls when this came out.
Yeah. I like Mafia. I think the vibe of it is cool. Just quick on Marquita. It says according to Genius, though Kelis is the primary artist, the verses are dominated by rap verses from Marquita. Though Marquita, once signed to Track Masters label, scored some high-profile spotlights on songs with Queen Latifah and Clips, her output sharply dropped after. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Think she's on IG if anybody wants to go look. I was doing research before the show, so she's out there.
Okay, what's after that? Game show. I like how game show specifically, like there's a couple of like songs that have like titles and or themes that are like metaphors for something else.
Yeah.
They don't sound like, and I think they're metaphors for like traditional R&B song tropes though. Like you know, like this is just a song about, game show, like it's going back and forth with like a relationship, like
Yeah.
a relationship, which is I think cool. Giving you vibes of no, that's talk show. 2088, that's talk show, not game show.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
I want to say that Kelis has another song, I think on the Tasty album, that's about like candy, which was the theme of the album, but like she was playing with like the names of candy bars in the song. I could be making this up in my mind, but I feel like it isn't it like in my mind I was like this has to be kind of like some of the foundational writing for like Pharrell, because I feel like it's something he does well, kind of playing around with like themes like that.
right. Um, Suspended. I remember that being like another song about another like figurative language about issues in a relationship. Sorry if I see. I'm looking at the lyrics on Genius right now.
Yeah.
It says this isn't our minds. We're suspended from space and time. Yeah, wasn't really one of my favorites. But
Yeah.
the one thing I did make a note about this song is you talked about jazz earlier, and this one's got like it's got more of a jazz singer vibe to it, like almost some Billie Holiday shit, sort of.
This must have been the song I was thinking about because there was a song and I was like, she sounds like a kind of giving me Shirley Bassey.
Yeah. And then Chad comes and has like a saxophone solo on it too.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, like I said, like I think like we both talked about, is like there's definitely elements of the other music that inspires this type of music and throughout. Um, what else? What else? What else?
Mars is one of my favorite songs on the
Mars is one of
album.
my favorite songs too. Yep. I think Mars just like the beat on that is crazy. Um, it's a very it's a very Neptune sound song. Like
Yeah,
very like a crazy structure, crazy drum pattern. That's definitely like not your typical R&B song.
yeah, agreed.
We talked about Ghetto Children back on the first episode of this whole thing,
Yes.
way back on episode one. For those of you who don't know, Ghetto Children features raps from Pharrell and Shay. And it also features verse from Mark Dorsey, who's singing on the song with Kelis. Mark Dorsey is who we know is got the famous hook on another Neptune song, "Love You Better" by LL Cool J.
Hmm.
Ghetto Children is definitely one of my favorites on the album too.
Yeah, agreed.
Any thoughts on "I Want Your Love"? I don't really remember that one too
I
bad.
remember enjoying it, but nothing is standing out to me. I was like, this is a nice like love song.
Yeah, and then "No Turning Back." Similar vibes.
Hmm. I think I tuned back in for real around Roller Rink because
Yes.
like that had a really fun sound.
Yes, Roller Rink is a favorite for the
Yeah.
Khalid Neptune fans. Also got raps from Pharrell on it.
I was a big fan of In the Morning.
In the morning. I don't really remember that one though.
Essentially, like she talks about like Casablanca was always her dream, and she meets up with this guy and they have this night together. But like Alexa, stop. Um, essentially she has to like just trust that they'll come back together. So like they meet in like these happenstance kind of ways, or like very rarely, but like it's a very beautiful experience. Like it was a I thought it was, I'm sure there have been love songs about it before, but it felt different
Mhm.
in the way that it was worded. So I liked that. Um and it has like it's a nice smooth song. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I maybe I was done after roller rink. I just wouldn't you agree was just kind of like blah to me. I mean but it had like
No, I'm gonna make a controversial statement. What a real bummer to end this album on.
yes, that's what I wrote down was that it was anticlimactic and it like
It's
it's
also a sad song. Why would you
just
end an
sad,
album like
sad
this?
heartbreak and like regular loves. It definitely had the R&B tropes, but it was like that's not a song you put at the end. Like you gotta, I don't know.
I'm sorry, it's now bring your child to work day. My son has arisen.
I know how it is. I locked Sir is locked out. He's probably sitting by the door.
He was asleep for most of this episode, but we've been rapping.
So in 2020, they released an expanded version that has a couple of instrumentals and like a extended version of Caught Out There, which is like just to have that hear that beat, the instrumental that beat was dope. So
Yeah.
overall, it was a good album. I mean,
Problem.
it's a good album. I mean, my favorite songs are Ghetto Children of Mars for sure. You going with the singles as your favorite songs, or you picking something different?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, I would throw Mars in there. I enjoyed it. I would be interested to know because there have been so many advancements in like sound and R&B since that I can't hear it with the same ear that I would have heard it with 25 years ago.
Right,
Um, but also at that time, these were the new sounds.
right,
And like this was the first time you were hearing stuff like that, which is why the Neptunes have the impact that they have.
right.
So, but even now, like I know that I will a lot of these songs I do listen to, even though I hadn't listened to the album like in succession. But I know I'll come back to some of the ones I was just hearing for the first time. Like I'll definitely like be replaying Mars because it's a good song.
Right.
It's just good music. It ages well.
So out of the three albums, Kaleidoscope, Wonderland, Tasty, what's your pick?
Come on, it's tasty
Yeah,
all the way.
I'm choosing this one out of those three.
Really?
Like as a whole album, I'm choosing this one because it's got like this is a traditional like this is a Neptunes album. Like Tasty was cool, but like now Tasty has my favorite song from Kelis, Sugar Honey Iced Tea. Like that's my favorite Kelis song. But in terms of a whole album, I would rather listen to this than listen to all of Tasty. That's just
Wow.
me.
I've never felt so betrayed by you.
That's just me though.
No, I hear you. I mean, I just have such a like Tasty was one of those albums that like I'm like holed up in my room listening to it on repeat. Like that was one of those albums for me.
Yeah.
So, or I remember like I think that whole I don't remember what season it came out in, but whatever season that was, I listened to that album all that season.
I felt like such a loser because I literally looked at it wrong and I thought that we were gonna do 20 years of Tasty this 20 years of Tasty and 25 years of Kaleidoscope this same month, but 20 years of Tasty was last year.
Damn.
So we missed that one. But good to hear your thoughts on it though. I mean, um we
Well,
did
now everybody knows I'm gonna get off this chat and go listen to Tasty.
we put that we did a post about it yesterday. I mean the biggest thing about Tasty for me is it's just I'll have to go back and listen to Tasty. I don't dislike it, but like if I have to sit with the whole Kelis album, I'm listening to it because I'm a fan of the Neptune, not because I'm a fan of the Kelis as much.
Well, I'm always listening to it because I'm a fan of Kelis
There you go.
first. So. And
There you go.
also Andre 3000.
I forgot about that too. I forgot about that.
Fun man.
All right.
Well, this has been fun.
Yeah, good to see you, kid.
Thanks. Good to see you too. Sorry for the cameo.
What a time. What a time.
Woof.
Oh. All right, folks. Everybody go listen to Kaleidoscope, especially if you were not born when it came out. Like, do your history lesson.
Yikes. I mean, wow, don't end with me feeling old.
25 years. I mean, that is wild. 25 years is wild.
I'm gonna
Okay.
go send this to my little sister.
25 years of Kaleidoscope. Shout out to Kelis wherever you're at.
On the
Probably
farm.
on the farm or in Africa somewhere. Um, I mean, it's the end of the year. It's not really, I don't know. We'll decide if we want to do end of the year episode. We might not need to do that, but we can talk about that offline. But at the end of the day, thanks for listening to Neptune Sunday. It's been a crazy year. It's December. Um, we made it, but appreciate you guys.
Barely.
Barely even a word, but we're here. Um, but those of you who are new, wherever you're listening to this, whether it's on Apple or Spotify, or you're actually watching our faces on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Share with your friends that are music lovers or specifically interested in Neptunes, Pharrell, Chad, Kelis, Push T, whoever. Um, but yeah, thank you for stopping by. Oh, have a good rest of your weekend.
Thank you. Now, happy holidays to
Yeah.
the people out there. Because if we don't talk to you,
Right. Whatever holiday celebrating.
all of them.
Every single, especially Kwanzaa. All right.
Bye.
Talk to y'all later. Peace and love.